So testing 1, 2, 3. Just do give me a one in the comments to let me know that audio is coming through as it should. And welcome, thank you all for being here. I see Silver Mubashir second. Okay, Cogito Ergo. Thanks to Lloyd for actually reading comments that are posted. Some channels don't, or maybe dumb comments made by atheists from Albanians are just too irritating after a while. They are very irritating all the time. But yeah, I do read the comments. I do go through them. Dedusa, ja, ons gaan no braai. Veronica, welcome. So hold on, let me just double check on YouTube that everything is working because you know I tend to make these technical errors. So okay, yeah, that's looking positive. So let me see. So you never return as a horse. Welcome, Sergeant Grinch. Darn it, no push-ups today, man, man. Um, Yeah, but well done, well done. That's great discipline. Thank you. You've like one of the elite troops now. You know, you're always on time, reliable. You know, it's the way we want you to be, right? By the way, Lloyd, another stunning presentation with Al Fadi. Thank you again, increasing our knowledge base. No, thank you. Yeah, with Al Fadi, I'm trying to do these succinctly. Obviously, he wants like 11 minutes maximum, and I'm trying to sort of introduce like 2 or 3 things that are related or perhaps separate, but they are discrete pieces of information that are useful. Excellent, Silver. Thank you. So yeah, I'm trying to introduce things that are bite-sized, encapsulated, so that people can use this. And I'd love to, if you guys can put in the comments how you find the information. I mean, how is it useful to you? How are you using it in your own responses to the Islamic apologists? You know, how do you use it? And also, you know, how is it changing the scene? How's it changing what's happening out there? Victor Vincent, thank you. Good knowledge and exposure. Sorry, my ears are a bit blocked here. Um, yeah, so let me see. Veronica, welcome. Okay, guys, so yeah, thank you for coming here again this evening. I'll probably stream again on Sunday. I may stream on Saturday, depends how busy things are. Um, but yeah, we're continuing on with MOONotheism, which is, of course, I am discussing the southern and the African origins of Islam. So we're mostly looking at places like Yemen. Of course, we're tying this to Mesopotamia and Turkey, southern Turkey. And we're going to be looking at a handful of things as well that connect. So I'll pick it up where we left off and just refresh a little bit on the last couple of slides, and then we'll go forward again. What Sharia? Oh, using all the time, but I get statements like, what Sharia? It's amazing. Islam is the only religion where you lie about your scriptures to defend them. That is insanity. It is absolute insanity. I mean, I don't pretend to be an expert on the Bible, right? This is not my talk to me about Islam, but good grief. How do you lie about your own religion to defend it? Pro-life choice, welcome. Um, yeah, okay. So there's a couple of new things. I just finished another set. I need to do another run through, but I finished another presentation today on Gnosticism, but we'll cover that in the future. And also, again, sorry, thank you again to my members. I wrote a post today for my members. I will be doing a talk with them on Saturday, so I'm planning one. And yeah, so this year I need to work hard on that, to work with my members and to reward them. And thank you very much. It's really, I mean, this year, well, the last year I spent, I had to buy a new camera. So I bought my last camera was bought in 2007, 2008, I don't know. So my last camera was about 14 years old. I needed to replace it. I bought a new one that was $300, and it's state of the art. And I webcam, and I couldn't have done it without you guys. So I thank you very much for that. I bought a new microphone that's like $200 or something for this one. Again, my old one was 2007. It was like another 15-year-old microphone, and again, not possible without the assistance. So thank you. And then of course I had to buy storage like Office because I use PowerPoint constantly. And then also Google. I need to back up my files because the last storage provider I used, it must have been a complaint, but they completely removed my account without warning. So my database, so now I back up my database in 6 different places. So I had to buy storage. I also had to buy backup software so that I back up my computer, that all my files are backed up. And then, so all of this, I mean, these days you have to pay annually. So so thank you for the support. I mean, it means that I can cover these costs, and that came to several $100s. I mean, probably $900, I think, for last year that I would have spent. So, if it wasn't for your guys' support, it would have come solely out of my pocket, and I really do thank you for that. So, oh, okay. So let's see where we were, and let's continue. Dragon, welcome. Thank you very, very much for being here. And okay, so we ended off with, let me just load up my, yeah, even software like this, where I can get this little ring around this. Wow, CMB, thank you very much. I'm really grateful. So thank you. Even software like this, I have to pay for it to buy this. I mean, it cost, I think, $12 or $13 to get, like, it's got other features, but so really much appreciated. Thank you. I genuinely, I'm very humbled by that. Okay, so guys, let me do, there's something specific I want to cover tonight. So let's go back 1 or 2 slides. We're looking at a god called Yata or Yesha. Notice how close this is to Yeshua, Yeshua. These names are so close. Now the Tha, for instance, within the Arabic versus the Yemeni Arabic, the Ta becomes the Sha. This is very common. Or the hard Ka becomes, the hard Ka becomes Ka, right? So you get these slight differences, but they're part of the same, they have the same meaning. So Ta and Sha could well be the same word, just different dialects, right? So now we're going to talk about also the origin of the word Isa, but I don't think that the conclusion we draw here is correct, but it's just one more theory that's put forward. So Yatha, Arabic, savior, right? We spoke about this, a pre-Islamic god worshipped by the Sabaeans and Himyarites of Yemen. Now, it would seem that this god was influenced by the spread of Christianity, so they wanted a competing, an equivalent god. I have an upcoming series on Gnosticism, and so yeah, I have an upcoming series on Gnosticism. Let me see if no, I don't have it. Which, actually, hold on. So I have an upcoming series. Let me go back here. On Gnosticism. It's going to be called Nonsense, right? And it's going to be the foundations of nonsensicism. So I'll be the series. Well, we'll see it when I have it. It's welkom by Donkey, because by Blade Donkey. So I'll be doing a series on Gnosticism, and I'll be tying some of that to Islam. It's a very simple, very easy to follow, foundational level. It's not as complex as what I usually do, but I just want to bring people into Gnosticism. So yeah, so look out for this coming soon. Nonsense, right? The foundations of nonsensicism. So it's going to be in 2 parts, but it's going to be really simple, introductory level. Marek, dobry wieczór. So, okay. Now, 9 kings have a theophoric name prefixed by Yatha. The name may be an archaic equivalent to Yesha, which is a masculine noun meaning salvation. Who brings salvation? Well, obviously the obvious answer is Jesus, Yeshua, right? See Strong's Hebrew 3468. No, it's a savior god. It's a Himyaritic deity, right? Himyar would be down here, right? We're looking at this region of Yemen. So this is Mecca here, and this is Himyar. This is Ethiopia here, right? That's the Horn of Africa. So we're looking at this region here. To whom, in conjunction with the other local gods, a temple was erected in Abyan by Abd Shams Aslam. Abd, slave of. Shams would be the sun, right? The slave of the sun god, Aslam, and his brother, Martad, all right? And then he was the special guardian of the town of Aden, and his analog was the Chaldean divinity Salman. Okay, fascinating. Now, we've been speaking about the connections between Yemen, the gods of Yemen, the gods of southern Arabia, right? These gods were also in Arabia itself, all the way up to Mecca and further. And these are the very same gods under different names in Babylon. So now you've got the same religion between Babylon and Yemen. So let's have a look at Abyar. This is Abyar here, right? This is Abyan, sorry. This is Abyan. This is the god here. And this is Aden here. So that's the city over there, right? Right at the bottom of Yemen. So in this region, and it's very close to this cluster here, we've got of very, very important temples to the main god, right? So what they're telling us is, let me go back here. So his analog was the Chaldean divinity Salman, okay? Fascinating. So the Chaldeans, remember, one researcher, one scholar was saying that he thought, this is Oman here, this is Yemen. So these guys obviously traded, there was common, they were going across the coast and then off to Africa, right? Sorry, off to India, my bad. Off to India here, to the Indian coast. Now, the one researcher was saying that he believes that the Chaldeans may have come from Oman. And from Oman, they traveled north and they settled Chaldea. Remember, they speak of the Chaldeans in the Bible, right? Which is this area here in Iraq, right? If I have this all my geography correct. So it's interesting that you have a god here from Yemen that is also the god of the Chaldeans, and the Chaldeans were here and here, which means that you've got the same god that started here that was here. So it doesn't just mean that this civilization influenced south, it means that these guys possibly also influenced north. So now you've got cross-pollination of cultures, cross-pollination of gods and religious ideas. So Veronica says, yeah, if I'm not mistaken, Hinduism also updated its pantheon after Jesus. That is very likely. All of these other religions seem to have updated their pantheon after Jesus. The Gnostics updated their beliefs after Jesus as well, right? So this was very, very common. This plagiarism, this parasitic symbiosis seems to have been the case all over. And yes, there's definitely, I mean, from what I've seen, there seems to be a strong influence of Hinduism in Islam as well. I haven't gone into depth on it, but what I've read, what I've looked at, it seems to me there's something, right? With the Muslims, where the Muslims have to defend their non-history, they're not coming. When I have a chance, I'm going to look at Mecca. I've collected a lot of material on Mecca. There's someone I need to speak to as well, but I've been collecting stuff on Mecca. I mean, Mecca's got no historical basis. Okay, now moving on. So anywho, and notice Salman, remember the earliest, this is the root of Islam. This letter, the three letters, SLM, is the root of Islam, right? And the earliest use of this for SLM as a root is for the star god, right? Shalim. So it's interesting that you've got this connection. So from Yemen to Oman to Iraq, right, to Babylon, and you've got this connection to Salim here. So let's continue with this. Now, Ibn al-Jabbar, Abd al-Jabbar, right? Ibn al-Jabbar, often he's called. He refers to a Christian theologian as Yawanis. Yawanis would be Johannes or John, right? Yawanis. Silver, wow, thank you very, very much. Wow, I'm very grateful. It says, no amount of money can help me thank you enough for helping me defend my Lord and Savior. No, thank you very, very much. I really am grateful that this is helpful to people. And I'm seeing a change in the Islamic polemic. I mean, I just see these guys I see them on the run. I see them weak. They're floundering. And I honestly believe that this is helping them to just lose their footing, their confidence. Right. Scrunchy says, rewriting history or stealing identities, huge problems. Yes. So Johannes, John. Now there's a couple of figures called John in that region historically as well. We'll probably cross their paths as we go through. So he was an Eastern Syriac Nestorian form of the name John. Okay, there it says so. Moreover, he repeatedly uses Ishu to refer to Jesus. Right? This form, so Ishu to refer to Jesus, this form is quite unusual for an Arabic text. It is based on the Eastern Syriac. So now you've got more evidence for the influence of Aramaic, the Syriac language, right, on the Quran, on the Arabs. Also bringing those ideas from these Nestorians, right, from these, at the time, heretical Christians or questionable Christians into Islam, into this region, right, this whole melting pot where this soup was made. Now, it is based on the East Syriac form of the name Jesus, which is Ishu. West Syriac is Yashu. Okay, Yashu, Yasha, Yatha. The tha can also be a sh, right? So notice there's this cross-pollination, the similarity here. So East Syriac is Isho. And of course in Islam you have Isa. At one point, Abd al-Jabbar teaches the reader that Ishu is Syriac for Isa, the Quranic form of Jesus. So in theory, this is him stating that this is where the name Isa came from in Islam. Why they use the term Isa? Because they took the name Isa from the Syriac. Is this correct? I don't know. This is simply a fact, though, that he says it and this is recorded, right, within the document. But whether it's true, whether it's correct, that's a question, right? There's more than one theory, right? But certainly this issue, Isa, mispronunciation, change of dialect, it's a possibility. So bear that in mind. Now something interesting. They speak of this guy with a really long name, Abu Ishaq bin Mati bin Hisu, died 653. He was a Jew from the Yemen and converted to Islam. He's the attributed source for many Israeliyat traditions found in Islamic literature. Now, what you may not realize is that the term Israeliyat is what the Muslims call hadiths. Right? So these hadiths were originally called the Israeliyat when Islam was much closer to Judaism in its alignment. And of course, once they had this major fallout with the Jews, they had to stop using the term Israeliyat, and they had to purge a lot of these Jewish hadiths out of their texts, right? And then they had to create their own hadiths, and the term hadith arose. So the Israeliyat, his title, Al-Akhbar, indicates that he had scholarly status amongst the Jews. So he came to Medina during the caliphate of Umar ibn al-Khattab. Went with him to Jerusalem, where he advised Umar about the initiation of worship at the rock, at the Temple Mount. Interesting, okay? Interesting. So now you've got a Jew who converted to Islam, who was a scholar, who was familiar with the history, the terminology. So, okay, we've got something. It's likely that he converted at the time of that journey, and after his conversion, he was on close terms with the caliph. So this would tell us where some of these Jewish ideas come from that influenced Islam. After Umar's death, which he is said to have predicted, he became an advisor and supporter of Uthman. He's credited with the reliable transmission of information about Umar, but... let me just close the window blew open, give me one sec. But look at this highlighted portion. On a cell phone, it's going to be a bit difficult to read. It was his profound knowledge of the Bible, of Jewish tradition, and of Yemenite traditions that earned him his reputation. Almost all traditions regarding the pre-Islamic prophets bear some mark of his erudition. So now you've got this Jewish scholar, right? But notice they make a mention of Yemenite traditions, also Jewish traditions, but Yemenite. Now, there's a couple of references to Yemen within the hadiths that for some reason just get scrubbed. They're mentioned in passing. It's like, why are they there? But it's like kind of overlooked. But we'll cover those later as well. But it's really interesting that they've scrubbed certain things or just don't. They're there, they're dangling. They're just the threads that go nowhere, but they kind of just ignore them and pretend that everything was happening around Mecca. So Daduza says that could explain why so many hadiths were rejected. It would have been embarrassing to have blatant Jewish teachings. That would make sense, and I believe that did happen. They threw out a bunch of Jewish things after they had a fallout, and they had to come up with their own. Yes. So Scrunchy says, some say Isa means camel semen. That's how much they love and respect Isa. They don't. Yeah, they don't love and respect him at all. But yeah, thank you. Let's continue. So let's look at Al-Muk. This is the diminutive of Al-Makkah, right? Which can be translated as the creature or the possession of Yahweh. A seal of the early 7th century BC, so this is 700 BC, well, 7th century, BC, bears the name Al-Mukn Yahweh bin Yahweh Malik. So notice the creature of Yahweh or the property of Yahweh, but notice Yahweh Malik. Malik, Yahweh the king, right? The God Yahweh, the supreme being, the king, Yahweh, right? Now, the term Yahweh, Malik, obviously can have multiple meanings, the king, but in Islamic terms, it's got some very ominous meanings as well, which we need to look at in relation to the pagan gods. But this is very, very interesting. You've got Yahweh in the 7th century BC linked with Al-Makkah. So this is very, very odd. This is the main god of Yemen. Now, this is the god Sin. Now, the question is, did they apply this to the moon god, but was it originally the Jewish god, right? The god of the Bible. That's the question. I mean, but just the fact that it's there, there's a question here. Now, I'm not saying that I've got the answer to everything, but I'm introducing this evidence, and this needs to be looked at. To this evidence should be added the possibly 8th century BC seal, Al-Mukn Yahweh, Bad Yahweh, belonging to Mikna Yahu, servant of Yahweh. So that's interesting. Now you've got Yemen, you've got Jews, right, who worship Yahweh. And then you've got the same name, this Al-Makkah. So did they co-opt the Jewish religion? Did they co-opt Yahweh and then try to use that name now to apply to a different god? So this seal provides evidence for an active cult of Yahweh in which figures such as Mikna Yahu could serve. So understand, so Yahweh, the god Yahweh, was active in this part of the world, in southern Arabia. Okay, so let's have a look and go forth and sin no more. This is a table of ancient planetary deities found in the Mideast, right? So in English, right, Sun, Moon, Mercury, and Venus. In Roman, it's Sol, Moon, Diana or Luna, Mercurius, and Venus. In Greek, Helios, Apollo, Selena, Artemis, Hermes, and Aphrodite for Venus. So now you've got Venus, Aphrodite, and in the Arabic, Venus happens to be Uzza, Al-Uzza. Heard of her? Hey, Marisui, welcome. So in the Arabian, the sun is Alat, Shams, meaning the goddess sun. Alat. Anyone heard of Alat, Manat, and Al-Uzza? Well, there you go. Alat, the sun goddess. Muhammad worshipped Alat, Manat, and Al-Uzza. Alat, the goddess sun. Who was the main god of the pantheon? The moon, the male. Right? Now, the moon is Allah Ta'ala, meaning the Most High God. Okay, Allah Ta'ala is a term Muslims use today. They speak of Allah Ta'ala, the great God, right? So the supreme high being, the Most High God. But here, it used to be called Allah Ta'ala Sin. Okay, so actually, let's just look up Allah Ta'ala. Let's just look it up and see what we find if there's search engine. So what does Allah Ta'ala meaning when we say this? Okay, it meaning, okay, let's have a look at the second entry from alislam.org. Okay, what is the meaning when we say Allah Ta'ala? It means, the meaning of Ta'ala is from the highness, which means that Allah is higher than being described. He is higher than that. Whatever humans think about Allah, try to describe him, he's higher than that. Okay, so this is a modern use of Allah Ta'ala, except back then, it was ascribed to the Babylonian moon god, Shin. Allah Ta'ala, the Most High God, Shin. So now they want to tell us this has nothing to do with paganism, but here we've got this very same title given to Allah today applied to the moon god. Okay, Mercury was all of these gods here, but Assad and so on, but Uzza. So we've now traced Allat and Al-Uzza, Venus and the sun, and Allah was the moon. Perhaps case closed. Okay, Babylonian is Shamash, Allat Shams. Shin, the Babylonian moon god Shin, is the moon, right? And Mercury is Nabu, right? The term Nabu, well, Nabi, Nabu, you tell me. Sumerian, Shin, Swen, Shun, and Nana. Okay, so understand, hopefully this overlaps. So Clate the JW says, well, certain false worships kept the true God's name, but ended up applying to another God down the road as time went on from after the Garden of Noah. But I speculate on that. Look, we can only speculate. Everyone's free to speculate here. I'm presenting evidence, but what I'm trying to show is their connections. This stuff doesn't come out of nowhere. It's not like they made it up. This is fresh. This is a brand new religion. Man, they were calling the Babylonian moon god Allah Ta'ala, right? Shin, Sin, Yasin. Yes, we're going to get to Yasin. Let's continue. Now, let's look at the Arabian moon gods. The moon gods of Arabia were war gods. Islam is a religion of war, right? Now, the Arabian moon gods were gods of war, right? So the moon gods were called Allah, because don't forget the Allah of the Kaaba was Baal, right? Hubal. Let's have a quick look there. So the Arabian moon god, well, so the god of the Kaaba was called Hubal or Hubal, I mean, depending how you spell it, same thing, which is Baal, okay? Hu is a prefix meaning he who is, right? He who is, right? Hubal. So the Allah of the Kaaba was Hubal, and this was at the time of Muhammad's youth, right? When he was a baby, his family all worshipped Hubal. So the moon gods, Allah, Ilumku, Mahram. This is the same as Al-Makkah. That's another name for Al-Makkah, which is another name for Sin. We know that Allah is already the moon god Sin. Osiris or Osiris Shin, right? Wad and Yera. Yera is just a derivation of the name of Abraham's father, Terah. Abu Bakr is one leg in paradise. Maybe that leg is Shin from Allah. I know, it's so weird. So, but Yera, Terah, we've covered the etymology of that already historically, and that's the same as Jera, Terah, the name of Abraham's father, because it's derived from the moon god, because his father obviously belonged to the moon god worshipping religion. And Wad. Now we come across this guy called Wad. We're going to come across Wad again shortly. The moon worship centers were Aksum, Beit Yera, Haran, Beit, right? Like Beit Lehem, right? Bethlehem. Yera, Jera, Terah, the name of Abraham's father again, right? Haran, right? There's more than one Haran in that region, but let's have a look. Don't forget we have a Haran up here, but we also have Haran here. You also have it here, which was the main center of worship of the moon god. So you have Turkey and here as well. Abraham lived here, up here north in Turkey. This is where Abraham lived, right? Several cities or villages are named after his family, right? So you have Makkah, Marib, okay, Hureda, Nerab, Shabwa, the Sinai Desert, Tema, Timna, Ur, and the Desert of Zin. Okay, so those are moon worship centers. Aksum. All of those in green have a connection to Islam. Okay, typically anything I have in green has a connection to Islam. The vicious god in the Quran is consistent, though not with the god of the Bible, but with a South Arabian war and moon god. Hans Kraus wrote, the main god, the national god of war, this is in all South Arabian, yes, nearly in all Semitic monuments, a sure identifying mark of the moon god. So the moon god in Semitic and South Arabian religions was the Cloranes and the KKK, correct? I mean, so few people realize, I mean, I've mentioned this before, but the KKK, their holy book is the Cloran, which might look very familiar to, and of course, the leader of the KKK is the Caliph. You may have seen this as in Islam as the Caliph, just so you guys know. Cloran, Quran, Caliph, Caliph, just sheer coincidence. And don't forget, the original symbol of the KKK was not the cross. The original symbol of the KKK is the crescent and the star. You may be familiar with the crescent and star from a certain religion, right? So understand the moon god is the national god of war. Allah is a god of war. So, because he's a moon god. The Abyssinian war and moon god, Mahran, is the same as the god Al-Makka. So hold on, Abyssinia, well, that's here. We started this whole adventure in Ethiopia. We started here in Aksum, Ethiopia, up north here, right? Mecca is over here. This is Yemen over here. So the same god in the same region, right? So now, notice what you have is the same god that is here in Ethiopia is here, is all across here, and is also here, as well as here. So you've got the very same god all across this region. This entire region, including West Africa, is the same god, just under different names. So now let's continue. Haran in Al-Mahabisha, which is Makoraba. I've covered Makoraba before. So this is a 1st to 2nd century plaque with a Sabaean dedicatory inscription to Al-Makka. At the top, there are a pair of sphinxes, right? Because there's an influence from Egyptian religion. I haven't gone deep into that. In the future, I hope to do that, but there's certainly a connection to Egyptian religion, right? So at the top, you have a pair of sphinxes, each with one raised forepaw flank a central stylized tree of life. The tree of life, well, that's very much a Jewish symbol as well. The Quran, yeah, exactly, Damien, Cosmic, yeah. It's framed by a pair of date palms in full fruit, decorated borders, floral patterns at the bottom. Excellent stuff. There's a dedication to Al-Makka of Haran by Riab, they're not quite sure, and his brothers, grandsons of Martad, we just mentioned Martad a few moments ago, and of the tribe of Du Amran, so Al-Makka of Haran. Okay, so now we have Haran. Now, we've already established in previous episodes that Makaraba, which Muslims like to claim is Mecca, because they want to use this mention on Ptolemy's map in the 2nd century, he mentions Makaraba. Now, I won't go into detail that. Just watch the show on that. I've got a couple of videos on that, but shorter videos on that topic. But Muslims like to claim that is Mecca because it's in the 2nd century, right? To push the date of founding of Mecca back as far as possible and to put it on maps. Of course, we've established that Mecca, right? This particular Mecca, this Makaraba, is in Al-Mahabisha, which is here in northwestern Yemen, right? So you've got it up here. This is Yemen. This is about 800 kilometers from Mecca. So this is Mecca up here. This is Haran here. Haran is in Al-Mahabisha. Now, Mahabisha happens to be called Ethiopia. Mahabisha, right? So Habesha, okay? Habesha. So let's have a look here if this will come up actually. Habesha. Let's have a look at Habesha. The Habesha peoples. Oh, Habesha peoples. Gez, okay? What is Gez? Abyssinians. What is Abyssinia? Ethiopia. Al-Mahabesha. Ma means belonging to the Habesha, belonging to Ethiopia. So now you have Al-Makka of Haran. So now you've got further corroboration. You've got this god here is the same god here. And this is Makaraba. This is what the Muslims try to claim was the original Mecca. If this is the original Mecca, it was a Mecca belonging to the moon god Sin. This seems to be the original Mecca, the original location of Mecca. In Iran, I found a reference to a very, very early manuscript, 19th century, I think, that states there was a major temple there, but it's in ruins. And there is, obviously in the Hadiths, Muhammad destroyed a temple that was there. He sent 150 men to tear this temple to the ground, because once they built whatever they built up here in Mecca, they needed to get rid of the evidence. They say Baka is Mecca too. How does that etymology work? It doesn't work. Baka, Mecca, they don't match. I've mentioned in the past when I did the series discussing scholars discussing that. When I do in the Makaraba talk, I mention that, and it doesn't gel. Doesn't gel. Arnold Nathaniel, welcome. So how can we all share the link to Lloyd's live stream on our social media if you want to get Lloyd to even more Thank you. I appreciate the support, guys. Okay, so why have a new location for Mecca? Villainous, well, so they want to get rid of the pagan roots. They want to claim, think about it. Everyone's interested in what's happening up north, right? Everyone's been interested. If you look in, I mean, listen to Mal, listen to Jay. By the way, I need to write to Mal. I need to get back to Mal. So everyone's been focusing up north here because the Muslims want to be part of this milieu that's happening up north, right? All of the good stuff, the Romans, the Greeks, they want to be involved with that. They want to be part of civilization. They don't want people to realize Islam came out of here, out of the Babylonian moon god worship, out of paganism. So they go to Mecca. It's a fresh start. There's nothing there. It's a completely blank, fresh start. So get rid of the evidence, wipe out everything, start over. Fresh start, they can make up a whole new narrative, make up any lies they want. At least, look, this is my interpretation of this. Understand. This is how I read the evidence. So, yeah. I mean, I'm just giving you what I know is historical, and you guys can work it out for yourselves. So, Al-Makkah of Haran. Now, reading about the Sabaean moon and war god Al-Makkah's religion from temple inscriptions is enlightening about Al-Makkah's successor, who was called Allah. So when the worship of Al-Makkah started to fade, they simply started to use the name Allah as the successor name. Don't forget, the Allah of the Kaaba was Hubal, Baal, right? And so here you've got a 250 AD inscription, okay? And it speaks of Al-Makkah Tahwan, the bull. Okay, the horns, that's where you get the horns from, right? The crescent moon, the horns. Same idea, right? Because he has granted him to remain safe and unscathed in all those campaigns, the war god, campaigns and battles, because he has granted him to return with honor, with spoils of 32 slaughtered enemies, and with booty, which has delighted his heart. Well, does the Quran and do Islamic scriptures talk about slaughter, warfare, booty? Because Muhammad got a fifth of all booty, right? They speak of slaughtered enemies. So Baal is also a god of war, a Dal Kol. I did not know that. I was not aware of that fact. Baal is a god of war. I need to look that up. Thank you. I need to check into that. So that is Paddy Gammon. Welcome. Sorry, my throat's a bit dry. It's either 1,000,000 degrees inside with the heating, or when I open the window, it's like minus 50. So yeah, gotta suffer. So hopefully what I'm presenting are the information. Hopefully it shows you there is some kind of actual connection. There's too many coincidences. I mean, it's just piles of them. This is Haran up here, okay, as you can see on the map. This is Sana'a, the capital. So this is actually very close to the capital of Yemen, right? Aden down here, this is the corner. And this is, of course, Asab, the major port where the Ethiopians would travel from, right? So a 1st century BC inscription reads, blah, 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 of the tribe, blah, 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 Akhraf of Haran has dedicated this inscription to Al-Makkah of Haran. That's here, Al-Mahabesha, right? Same place, very close to the major temples of Al-Makkah as well, other major temples. Al-Makkah has granted him trophies, spoils, and captives. So now Allah becomes this moon god. So now you've got, from Al-Makkah, you go to Allah, right? And of course, you've got a third one here, 8th century BC, control of the incense root. So on a massive stone in Al-Makkah's temple at Sirah, his exploits that include winning control of the incense root and crushing the kingdoms of Ausan and Nashan. Hold on, wasn't Moa camel raider? Wasn't he some kind of camel thief or something like that? You know, wasn't he some kind of, camel train robber or something like that? So yeah, I mean, again, where do these connections take us, right? Verna says, could also be a clean break from Jerusalem. Yes, there is a connection to Jerusalem. I did mention that in the previous show. There's a direct connection to Jerusalem, a direct, obvious link to Jerusalem that's irrefutably historical. Right, could also be a clean break from Jerusalem. Yes, they would want to make a clean break. They want to establish their own identity because there was an ecumenical movement, the connection between monotheists, and they wanted to separate from that and form their own separate identity. So a change in the politics of new caliphate divorcing themselves from Christianity. Correct, that does seem to be the case. Let's continue. Wadd Haran. So I'll do a few more slides. Let me just check how far I will go. So let me just see. Okay, yeah, so probably go like 5 more slides. So let's have a look. Now, we're talking about Wadd in Haran. We mentioned the god Wadd earlier. So Wadd is an important divinity in southern Arabia, almost unknown in the rest of Arabia. Or is he, right, according to this? It is in the kingdom of Ma'in, the capital of Karnal. So Ma'in Okay, so let's have a look at where is Mayin. Mayin is somewhere up here. Let's have a look at, okay, Mayin. And apparently no, that's not the one I want. Okay, there's a different location, but it's also in Arabia, so whatever. Okay, so they speak of Mayin in the Jawf of Yemen. Okay, that Wadd occupies the most eminent position. So Wadd was the main god. Now don't forget, different tribes would have the same god under a different name. They worshipped an aspect of the god, or they would highlight, it's like one church being the Church of the Redeemer, the other one the Church of the Lamb. They're both worshipping Jesus, they're just using a different name for him, right? So now he had a temple at Barakish, another temple in the Manayan colony of Dedan. So Barakish this is Barakish down here, and Dedan is up here. North. So hold on, let's see, where is Dedan? Alula, that's Dedan, yeah. So you've, again, the same god is what is worshipped here in this region. Notice Barakish is right here in this confluence of major temples of Mecca, right, who became Allah. And again, he's worshipped up here as well. Okay, this is Madain Sari. That's probably what I was talking about earlier. Okay, so now they speak of a clan of the Banu Dimr, consider itself the clients of Wadd, right? Finally, the permanent river that irrigates the Jawf bears his name, okay, called Haran, the torrent of Wadd. Now notice, the god Wadd was also venerated at Saba, which is not far from Marib, where a small temple was discovered, and in the Sabaean tribes. Hold on. Now they're saying that he was venerated at Saba. Where was Saba? Right here. So Wadd is just another, so understand, all of these names are confusing, right? But Wadd turns out to be Al-Makkah, the same god. He's worshipped by the same Sabaeans. The Sabaeans worshipped Al-Makkah, right? This is now in Yemen. So now you've got, all the way across Yemen, you've got the worship of Wadd right here, along with the other major god, which is Al-Makkah, same god, right up here as well. So understand, you've got Tamar and, yeah. Anyway, so don't forget who brought all of this down. Nabonidus came down here, settled in Tamar for 10 years. So now you've got the connection to Babylon as well. So now you've got that. Let's have a look at Haran, Yemen's moon god Kaaba. Right, so I'm going to go to these images. I also want to bring these up. So this one, sorry. So I'm going to show these. This is the image. Now remember, there's the idea that Mecca is supposed to be very, very lush and fertile. We know it's absolutely not. Remember, there was supposed to be date palms and other wonderful things happening in Mecca. Right, so let's have a look at this region. Right, Al-Mahabesha. Let's look at this region here. This is lush. This is mountainous. It has caves. It is terraced. So this is the kind of terrain that we are looking at here. Right, the mountains, caves. This would fit the sort of the idea of Mecca, as it's supposed to be lush and green and fertile and blah blah blah. So people speak of Petra and Jordan as meeting the criteria for what the Quran describes Mecca looked like, but so does this place, right? So does this area. Let's have a look here. Haran, right here. Okay, so this is Haran, right there. Haran, Haran, same thing. It actually ends up being the same thing. Haran, Haran. There's no real difference, right, between the two names. It's just different forms of the same name. Now, notice you've got here Rab Haran. Nami proposes the following translation: the Temple of Haran. So HRN can be translated multiple ways. Haran, Haran. Rab is the name, so let me just take that away and just see if I'm missing any comments. So Rab is the name of the Sabaean moon god. Hold on, Haran, okay? Rab of Haran. Rab is the name of the Sabaean moon god, considered as lunar quarter. The parallel, okay? Tal Rib, Talab of the Riyamun, blah, blah, blah. Who was the Sabaean moon god? Well, Al-Makkah, right? Who was the Sabaean moon god? Well, Wadd, right? Again, we get back to the same god over and over and over. Notice this is very, very interesting. Remember we saw a connection to that they may have co-opted the name of Yahweh, right? Al-Makkan Yahweh, right? Al-Makkah, Yahweh, right? We saw this connection of Al-Makkah, the Babylonian moon god, but with the connection of Yahweh. So there's some kind of plagiarism going on. Notice here in the Encyclopedia volume 12, Encyclopedia of Islam, page 898, that's in the PDF. They have this reference, Wadd is father. God is the father. This is not something that's common, but then where did they get this idea, right? Where did they get this idea? That is very, very odd. But anyway, Haran is also Haran, Turkey. So again, you've got the same idea. Let me just catch up with the comments. Whop your Wadd on the counter. Yeah, okay. Whatever local god is greater. Yep, that's villainous. Tamur says, I have to check this out at work, God bless. Yep, you too. Corvus Glaive says, looks like I need to watch this from the beginning. I've suspected that Allah is Allah Gabalis for a while. Okay, I don't know who that is, but Merry Christmas to the traditional Christian calendarists. Excellent, thank you. Okay, that's as far as I can go right now. Let me just go down further. So Nicholas Serpa says, I'm still showing up and the maps help, but I tend to get overwhelmed with the information. Can you walk us through a little slower for those of us with less acumen? Maybe more pictures. Dude, yeah, I know. It's overwhelming for a lot of people, but look, you're going to have to watch it. I watch videos that I think are useful 2, 3, 4 times, and I take notes. It's just how it is. I watch it at 1.75, 1.5, but I take notes and I watch it several times. I can't do it in one sitting either. So, Villainous says, plenty of proper hills to run between rather than a couple of rocks at current Mecca. Exactly. And Nicholas says, Hara also means turds in modern Turkish. Yeah. Mare Sui says, watch it at 0.5 speed. Yeah. So notice, but just notice these connections, this constant set of coincidences and connections, these parallels, right? Ezekiel 27.3 mentions Haran. Oddly enough, it's in the Bible. Haran and Kane and Eden, the merchants of Sheba. Okay, so they know of it. The merchants of Sheba, Queen of Sheba, Yemen, right? Ashur and Chilmad were thy merchants. And Sheba was a state. So these towns would have likely belonged to the state. Haran, Kane, and Eden. So Haran used to be a major trading post. Remember, they try to claim that Mecca is a major trading city. Well, there's no evidence for that, but Haran was. It's mentioned in the Bible, the merchants of Sheba. Okay, so that belonged to Sheba. So Scrunchy says, so they hide the similarities or parallels to seem different and then use those fake differences to, yeah. But can you guys see it? I mean, am I imagining it, or are there just too many parallels, too many coincidences, too many things that are the same thing under different names? Tippy Bear says, I'm geographically ignorant. Well, I used to when I was never in the military, but when I did a lot of work for them, I had to do maps. I had to do very high resolution maps, and had to do things on mapping. So I'm by no means a cartographer, and if you gave me a regular map, I'd get lost. But give me a computer and some stuff, yeah, I used to make maps. So I had to point radars at things, so very accurately at long distances. So so Tai was an older city than Mecca. Changed my mind, of course. Tippy Bear. So Nicholas Serpa says way too many coincidences, and that's what I think as well. I mean, this is all verifiable history, right? I'm pulling this out of decades and hundreds of different documents. Okay, let's continue. So now let's look at South Arabian inscriptions. Inscriptions is fantastic history because there's archaeology. It's solid. It's literally in the rock. We'll look at someone called Ilumku. Now, according to this, according to one source, the gods shifted around at some point. The moon and lunar god became supreme according to the inscriptions. So in the previous, if you look at Western cultures like Rome and Greece, the sun god is supreme and the moon god is his consort. But in Babylon and also in Arabia, because they're sharing the same culture and religion, this got flipped around. The moon god was supreme. Right? The moon god was supreme. The sun god was secondary. She was the consort. The moon god was male. In Western culture, the sun god is male, the moon god is female. And many scholars of the West, when they came across this pantheon, they got it the wrong way around. They got it backwards. So there are mistakes within the scholarship. Yeah, if you guys would like to hit the like button, please do so. Hopefully I'm not going overly fast. But yeah, I mean, great to have you guys here and have a chat with you. So they spoke of Awam, the temple of Ilumku, when he sacrificed to Atar, the star god. And when he established the whole community united by a god and a patron and by a pact and a secret treaty. Oh, secrets. Now we're talking about secrets. By Atar and by Haubas. Haubas, well, Haubas is another name for Ilumku, who is Al-Makkah, who is Wadd, who is, well, yeah. I mean, Al-Makkah. So this is the same god, different name, different tribe just calls him a different name. Again, It's like the church is called Church of the Lamb, the other one is Church of the Redeemer, the other one is Church of the Holy Sepulchre. It's all to Jesus, but different names, right? I hear it's hot in the desert, man. I was in, uh, where was I? Oh, Bahrain. It was 55 degrees, but dry air, fortunately, 55 Celsius. I was in the Rub al Khali, Saudi Arabia, a corner of Saudi Arabia. I was in UAE, but it was 68 degrees. 68. Incredible how hot it gets out there. So Al-Makka, notice, lunar god, the first divinity of the Sabaean pantheon. Look at Habas, another name of the Sabaean lunar god. Okay? So Habas, and by Ilumku, so that's the same god, right? Ilumku is just another name for Al-Makka, and Habas, so it's the same god. And then Sim, the name of the lunar god, honored as the god who listens to and who hearkens to. Okay, the name of the lunar god. So now you've got another name, Sim. Okay, so there you go. Well, again, too many coincidences. Okay, let's continue. Now, Baal is the moon god, Al-Makka, plus the bull. Now, we'll get more into the bull as we go. This is April 1948 from another source. And now they speak of Wadd, the moon. So the occurrence of Sim, we just saw Sim here. Sim, the name of the lunar god, the god who listens to, who hearkens to, right? The occurrence of Sim in this celestial company has suggested to Rickmans that he was an important star, probably a manifestation of Atta. Okay, so now you've got the star god. So let me see, the name of the lunar god. Okay, so some conflict there, but that's typical. Nielsen identifies him with the moon god. Some new light in his identity may be thrown by the title Terbidim, which follows his name in the inscription before us. There are frequent references in the Sabaean text to Terbilim, Baal's bull. The Baal in this case being the moon god Ilumku. Ilumku is Al-Makka. The Allah of the Kaaba was Baal. The Allah of the Kaaba was Hubal, right? But also it was Al-Makka. So I understand. So yeah, I mean, to me, this is very, very clear. And Al-Makka seems to have a sacred bull closely associated with him. So yeah, I mean, so guys, am I imagining things, or are we seeing things that these are all the same thing? That ultimately these are all pointing at the very same source, the same individual source. Notice in Jeremiah 32:35, and here's where people go, well, Molech was just a figment of your imagination. No, because they love to use very discredited, outdated research to try to discredit the idea of Molech for various reasons, but we'll get into that as we go. And they built the high places of Baal, which are in the valley of the son of Hinnom, and to cause their sons and their daughters to pass through the fire unto Molech. The high places of Baal to pass through the fire unto Molech, which means we have the same God. Baal is Molech, Molech is Baal. Now, Baal is not just a proper name, Baal's also a title. So you could have a Baal called Frank. So the god could be called Frank, and he could be a god of, I don't know, toe fungus, right? So that doesn't mean he was Baal as a noun. Baal is a proper name. So you can have many Baals, the Baalim, the many Baalim, but there's a main Baal, and that main Baal, the main god, is called Molech, just like the main Allah was called Hubal, right? Which I commanded them not, because neither came it into my mind that they should do this abomination to cause Judah to sin. So this passage links Baal to Molech. So Jesus Saves says, Dragon D, I'm very sick. Please pray for me. I'm getting worse daily. All this video is very good information. I really appreciate it. So thank you. So yeah, I wish you all the best. I mean, so guys, say a prayer for Jesus Saves. Just believe he's very ill. So yeah, let's pray for you, and let's hope you get better soon. All right. So, okay, very Adele Cole says Corvus Glaive, you mean Elagabal. Okay, because Elagabalus was a Roman emperor. Thank you very much for the clarification. Tippy Bear says toe fungus, peace be upon him. Maurice Sui says Islam had to have come from somewhere, and if it isn't genuine divine revelation, this is a likely contender. Yeah, this is the earliest source. Now, Gnosticism is mixed up in this as well, but that came later, right? This is a super stuff. Okay, let me continue, and I'll do a couple of extra slides. So let me go. So Baal, perhaps the same town as having a well on the borders of the tribe of Simeon. Now notice here, in this chapter, in this part of the Bible, okay, I don't know which book this is, something, oh, you tell me. Baal, perhaps the same town as this having a well. So they're connecting Baal to having a well. Which city in Mecca do we know? Which city called Mecca do we know has a well? called the Zamzam well. Is this a coincidence? I don't know. Is this relevant? I don't know. It's just that I just found this Baal linked to having a well. Muslims are all about Mecca having a well called the Zamzam well. So is this, understand, again, these connections, you tell me if this is legitimate, if there's something here, but I'm saying let's not reject the evidence. Let's just see there's so many coincidences. This needs to be investigated further. Okay, finally, let me check how many more slides I will do. I'm going to do just a handful. Okay, we're going to do 2 or 3 more. Okay. Hatra is a small Arab kingdom in Mesopotamia. Hatra is up here. So let's have a look. Hatra is here in the north of Iraq. This was discovered. This was lost for nearly 2,000 years or whatever. It was discovered in the late 1800s or 1900s. So it was discovered not that long ago. It was a major center. There were several of these centers all the way from here to Petra. These were Arab town states, Arab city-states in Mesopotamia, in the northern Arabia. So basically these traders from Yemen, southern Arabia, established trading posts, major cities that they controlled all the way from here to Petra. So they had strong influence, and they had temples where everyone could go worship their gods because it was good for trade. So Hatra was a small Arab kingdom in Mesopotamia. So notice the trade, the influence didn't just go south; it also went north. Hatra was an ancient city in this is Hatra here, located in Iraq. In Upper Mesopotamia, located in present-day eastern Nineveh Governorate in northern Iraq. A caravan city that flourished in the 2nd century and was destroyed and deserted in the 3rd, was discovered again in the 19th century. In Arabic, it's called Al-Hadr. It's recorded as Hatra in the Aramaic inscriptions. So again, the influence of Aramaic. The city was famed for its fusion of Greek, Mesopotamian, Canaanite, Aramaean, and Arabian pantheons. Just like Mecca, the Kaaba, where everyone brought their 360 gods. Everyone came and did their thing with their gods. They had the same principle. They took it up north. Officially called Beit Elaha, the house of God. Right? Very Jewish. In Aramaic inscriptions, recorded as the enclosure of Shamash. Shamash being the sun god. Or the star god, whichever. We came across Shamash earlier. Okay? Which was found on a coin, Hatrash de Shamash, enclosure of Shamash. This is the capital of possibly the first Arab kingdom in the chain of Arab cities running from Hatra via Palmyra, Baalbek, and Petra. Baalbek, Jordan. Okay, I've driven past Baalbek. I never went in. Pity, I just didn't have the opportunity. The city had temples to Nergal, the Assyrian Babylonian and Akkadian, god, Hermes, the Greek god, Atrahasis, the Syro-Aramaean god, Alat, interesting, we've covered Alat, Nabatean, certainly, Shamia, Arabian, and Shamash, the Mesopotamian sun god. So Nabatean, yes, Petra, it would be Nabatean. Other deities mentioned in the Hatra and Aramaic inscriptions were the Aramaean Baal Shaman. If you've watched Dan Gibson, he speaks of Baal Shaman, the female deity known as Ashur-Baal. So the Aramaean Baal Shaman, that's the Aramaic Baal, right? In Hatra. So now you've got the same culture that is down here. The same culture that's down here has established a series of cities, city-states, all the way up here where they traded ideas and traded goods. They were wealthy and powerful. And they had a god called Baal Shaman mentioned in their inscriptions. Earlier rulers were titled Mrj, or Maria, Lord, and later ones were called Malik. Malik Dirb, king of the Arabs, Malka, king. Now this term Malik, we'll have another look at that as we go. Now, so Malik, we will come across that, but Malik has certain other meanings which Muslims don't talk about a lot, which we need to look at. We've covered a lot, that's punny. Yes, Tippy, you're right. Okay, I'm going to wind down here, guys, but I want to look at some Quranic surahs named after pagan deities. Sheer coincidence that pagan deities are the titles of Quranic chapters. Quran 36, Yasin, the heart of the unholy Quran. So Yasin, the chapter called Yasin, is called by Islamic scholars. Wow, Steve, thank you very much. Very grateful. Thank you again, Lord. I'll do my best to keep you funded in order to produce these informative messages. Thank you. I'm really grateful. So Yasin is called by scholars the heart of the Quran, the most important chapter in the Quran. Wow, I'm so grateful. Thank you. So the heart of the unholy Quran, the meaning of Yasin, according to scholars, is unknown. It's debated amongst Muslim scholars. They just don't know. Where does this come from? Oh, I don't know. Jews, we're just clueless. Oh, who knows? It's a mystery. One interpretation is that Yasin means "oh human being." That's wow. That's creative. It is representative of the divine origin of the book. Now the scholars say, look, we don't know what it means. We don't know where it comes from. Who knows? It's a mystery. But it is representative of the divine origin of the book. Look, man, it's in the name, Sin. The moon god, Shin. It's right there. They just don't want to talk about it. Why would they want to talk about it? Right? Their god was called Hubal. The Allah was called Hubal. So they dropped Hubal and started using Allah, of course, because it's pagan. It's too obvious. It gives the game away. So Damian Kuzmik says, so many coincidences with KKK and Islam. The Quran, the Crescendo, the Prophet Muhammad, whitest person to live on the face of the earth. Yeah, it all needs investigation. I'm just putting together the evidence here that say, look, there's something here. There's probably something here that needs looking at. So Sin, okay, the moon god Sin. I think it's pretty obvious. See the obviously, okay, I'll skip that one. It's a longer argument for another day, but clearly they're referring to Sin here. It's in the name. Quran 54, Al-Qamar, the moon. This is like the full moon, right? Or the whole of the moon. Al-Qamar, right? The moon is another god in Arabian pantheon. Ar-Rahman, we've already discussed Ar-Rahman. That was at one point Yahweh, and they usurped the name. Quran 53, Al-Najm, the star. We know that they worship the star gods. And then chapter 67 is Al-Mulk, Al-Malik. And of course, we speak a lot about Abd al-Malik. The king, the dominion, Malik, is Molech. Malik happens to sadly be Molech. And in Akkadian, it's Mulek, and Mulek is Molech. So this happens to be the very same. The Malik, the king. Right? Now, they speak very often of, if you watch J Channel, he speaks of the Abd al-Malik. You know, Abd al-Malik went to Jerusalem. Abd al-Malik did this. It's like a title, like Caesar. Right? Now, of course, we know that before they used the term Malik, it was the Muqarrab. Right? So we've already spoken about that in previous shows, how that also links to the pagan deities, right? To Al-Makkah, right? The Muqarriba, right? And that's where Makaraba comes from. And Makaraba is where they worshipped the moon god Shin, right? Al-Makkah. We really know that. So that's where that comes from. So Al-Makkah, they had to drop the name Muqarrab. They eventually used the Malik. And from Malik, which was too close to Moloch, which was too close to the pagan gods, they eventually had to go to Caliph, right? So they had to change this. So now, let's have a look here. You have chapter 85, Al-Buruj, the constellations, mansions of the stars, the constellations. Again, the stars, the worship of stars. Let me see. You've got, Scrunchy says, secret Islam. No Muslim should know because obviously they won't accept it, of course. Then chapter 86, At-Tariq, the morning star, Venus, Sirius, and Canopus. I think I'll do one more slide and I'll discuss Sirius. So let me just see where I am. Okay, yeah, I will talk about this and we'll finish here on the final slide. So again, I think there are too many connections, too many links to everything, all right? And Asham's the sun god. Now, chapter 91, Asham's the sun god. These are all pagan gods. Why are they the title of chapters of the Quran, right? Adele Cole says, in my studies, I discovered Unitarianism shared the same Docetian concept of Jesus like Islam. I was stunned. Yes, that I will be covering some of that in the future. I have the Docetic concept of Jesus like Islam. Yes. It drew from so many sources. It's insane how many sources Islam drew from. And Sabah, Shiba, mentions the dam break at Marib. So Sabah, now again, they speak of Sabah, okay? Sabah, that's here, this region. This region was the worship of Al-Makkah, the moon god, Molech, right? Wadd. So understand all of these references to the south that have been neglected in favor of looking at Petra, looking at the north. Once we go south, you start to see Islam really started in the south. You have to go south and west to Africa. Noel Shabo says, please brother, can you talk about if Islam related to Freemasonism or not? Okay, very briefly, because I want to finish. I need to go in a minute or two. The Sufis claim to be the founders of Freemasonry, to be the original Freemasons. They claim that they smuggled Freemasonry into the UK in the 9th century, something like that, or 11th, 10th century, and that they smuggled, I need to check my notes, I'll make a mistake here. And they also claim to have smuggled Freemasonry into Scotland in the 12th century. So they claim that they are the founders of Freemasonry, that they are the original Freemasons. So this is their claim. So if you look at my, I have a discussion on that. I have a video on that called, oh, good grief. Let me go look at my, oh man, yeah, because I want to finish up here, but let's have a look. Let's go look at the channel of this dude called Lloyd de Jong. Let me go to the videos here. Islamic Freemasonry. There you go. There you go. Have a look at these videos. Anything, this Telegram talk, Islamic Freemasonry, all of this stuff here. These are all on the topic. This one covers it specifically. This one would cover it specifically. Telegram talk, Islamic Gnosticism. Islamic Gnosticism, it should be in all of these. I cover it there. The claims that they make of being the founders of Freemasonry. So guys, my final slide. Hopefully that answers your question, Noel. Child sacrifice, yes. Actually, the Muslims do claim that they founded the Freemasons. They do claim. This is an explicit claim that is made. This from the Sufis. The Islamic equivalent of Freemasonry is the Shriners. Yes. To be a Freemason, you don't have to be a Shriner, but to be a Shriner, you must be a Freemason. And the Shriners, if you look at my series, they are explicitly Muslim. They do tend to lean Shia in some things, like Ali, they have veneration of Ali, but otherwise they're very Sunni. In fact, they're like non-denominational Islamic. They're like solidly Islamic. There's no question. Kabbalism, yeah, is actually a late development. Yeah, and it's in fact the Muslims have their own version of Kabbalah as well. I mean, people don't know this, but if you look at the etymology of the word Kabbalah, it's actually older than the Jewish version of it, Kabbalah. And even the Jewish Kabbalism has the whole barakat concept. It's actually derived from the Islamic barakat concept. So I've covered that as well. That goes on. That's in my videos. So Raisin has to be honest, it's the Freemason Bible. The Kabbalism. So hold on if I missed it. Truly, I have no idea that Freemason stuff is about. Yeah, I don't know much about it either, to be quite honest. Okay, guys. Jerah, this is the fact that the word in Hebrew, the Banu, sons of the new moon. So notice Jerah, the father of Abraham, Jerah, Yerah, the Banu Hilal. Hillel is the crescent moon, sons of the new moon, and that's also the name, that's one of the, it's one of the names of the Arabian gods, and this is, of course, what Muslims call the crescent moon today on this flag, right? On the Islamic symbol, it's called the Hillel, right? So sons of the new moon, the bay of the moon. So the whole moon thing is just, it's, the worship of the moon has caused the word to bulk in place names. The whole moon worship thing is just everywhere in the region. It's in the geography of the region. You can't escape it, right? Okay, this is my final slide. So for tonight, Allah is the Lord of Sirius. Okay, the Lord of Sirius is Shin. Sirius is the star, who is the son of the moon and the sun. Okay, the child, as I say, the progeny, the child. Okay, so the moon and the sun, his consort, right? So you have the moon, male, the sun, female. They have a kid. The kid is Sirius, the sun, right? The stars. So the sun is the stars, right? So you have the star. They have kids. The kids are the stars, right? And the Lord of Sirius is the moon, right? He's the big guy in the household. So Quran 53:49, An-Najm, the star, and he, Allah alone, is the Lord of Sirius. Okay? Thank you, Lord. If not already, please consider a small series on how and where you get research material, how you do research. That is actually worth doing. I should actually just show you guys how I'll go through it. It can get boring in places, but it's critical to do. You have to know how. Arnold, yes, that's a very good idea. I actually did write a message today to my members that I'll try and do a call with them on Saturday. We can all agree on a time, and I will actually show them how I do research. So I was going to do that for my members this Saturday. But something I can do also, yeah, we can plan that. So just remind me in case I forget, do it in the comments or whatever, but yeah, I need to plan how to teach you. Now notice, it says in the Quran explicitly, Allah is the Lord of Sirius. The Lord of Sirius was Sin, the head of the pantheon, right? Because the stars are lower in order than the moon, right? Who's the head of the pantheon. Only once a star is mentioned in the Quran, only once, by its old Arabic name, and that he is the Lord of Al-Shira, right? Al-Shira is the star Alpha Canonis Majoris, Sirius, the brightest fixed star in the sky. Sirius was worshipped by Arab tribes in the Jahiliyyah before Islam. It is now stressed that Allah, creator of all beings, is also the Lord of Sirius. Shin was the head of this pantheon. Now, according to Tafsir al-Jalalain, this is a star lying beyond the constellation of Gemini, which was worshipped in the time of pagandom. So we have confirmation from Tafsir al-Jalalain that this Sirius was a pagan star, and Allah is the Lord of Sirius, which means that they're in the same pantheon. Villainous says, how does Islam survive when it's being shown to be a fabrication? You tell me. Ibn Abbas says, and that he it is who is the Lord of Sirius, which was worshipped by the Kuzah. Okay, fascinating. Ibn Abbas confirms that Sirius was worshipped by the Kuzah. We're going to have a look at who the Kuzah are in a moment. It says here on Quran.com 5349, and he alone is the Lord of Sirius. In the footnote, it says, a star worshipped by some ancient pagans. A star worshipped by some ancient pagans. So we have confirmation, Quran.com. And then again, you've got here, okay, female. So you've got here Al-Shirra of Sirius. So definitely speaking of Sirius, okay? And you've got ancient pagans. Let's have a look at who the Kuzaa are. The Banu Kuzaa is the name of an Azdite Qatanite tribe, one of the main ancestral tribes of the Arabian Peninsula. They ruled Mecca for a long period prior to Muhammad's rule. So Allah is the Lord of Sirius, the head of the pantheon of which the star Sirius is one. And this was worshipped by the Kuzaa, who are one of the main tribes that founded the peoples of the Arabian Peninsula, and they ruled Mecca. Make of that what you will, guys. I will stop here. So thank you very much for the time. I really appreciate the donations. Yeah, so guys, I will probably be on with Thaddeus on Saturday. And Dragon says, Lloyd, this was again excellent. Thank you for all your tremendous work. Tide, you're welcome. Thank you. Nicholas Surpus says, Lloyd, have you been on other channels like Hartoon's? Hartoon refused to have me on. She wasn't interested. God Logic, I haven't spoken to him. Christian Prince doesn't do collabs. Tried plugging on the latter, but Sam stood me up several times. Yeah, somehow got into an online tiff with me that same moment. So yeah, that I have no idea why, but yeah, let's not go there. I have no idea. I've spoken with Sam, and then he invited me on, and then just cancelled with me each time we made a date and arrangement. So I have no idea why. Anyway. So he never returned as a war says, wow, what an amazing lot of connections. Seems to be more than just mere coincidence. That's what I think. Thank you. Yeah. Please stay off Sam's channel. Yeah. So guys, yeah, look, all of this, notice, I mean, this cannot be coincidence. This whole blend of things, it's just mixed up. Everything's mixed up. So yeah, guys, make of it as you will. But thank you again, guys. I really appreciate it. I'm very humbled by the support. I am so grateful. Thank you. So guys, I'll see you guys next week. Have a great weekend. It's a long weekend here, so I actually want to get into that. But yeah, guys, I'll probably see you guys on Saturday or Sunday on Thaddeus' channel. If it's quiet, I'll stream on Saturday. But you might get on with Chris Claus. Chris and I had an argument about something when I was supposed to stream, and I was supposed to go live, and I canceled at the last second. I literally said, look, we're not going to do this. So, I mean, like, I don't have an issue, but let's just say that somehow my approach doesn't gel with some people, because I'm saying the Quran is a waste of time. I say the Quran is irrelevant. The Quran is unnecessary. It's pretty much a waste of time. Ignore that thing. Why are you going there? It's just look at other play. And my approach it goes against the grain. I think people kind of, they've established their reputations on the Quran and the Hadith, and I'm like, huh, what? The Quran, what? The Hadith, what? Who cares about those things? There's nothing useful there. You know, to me, they're only useful when the Sharia references them specifically. Then I'll go there. Otherwise, it's not relevant. Valina says I'm banned on Sam's channel. Oh, look, I mean, I'll talk to Chris Claus, no problem. It's just that there was something he was like, when I was saying, look, my perspective is not the standard perspective. I come from this perspective, and I was being interrogated about that, like I'm wrong for thinking that way. I was like, I'm not interested in the Quran. I don't give a toss about the Quran. It's not important. There are times it's relevant, but generally speaking, it's not. So anyway, guys, I don't want to turn this into a whole story. So yeah, so Plate says unsubscribe from Chris. Yeah, I mean, look, whatever. I mean, some people don't like me. I don't know why. I've never spoken to some of them. I have no idea why. So Silver Mubasters, you're years beyond the current academics. Thank you. So guys, yeah, I'm not looking to turn this into a whole story and he said, she said, and then I get into fights with people that I don't need to get into fights with. So I'm just being factual about it. So yeah, so guys, thank you very much. I appreciate the conversation, appreciate the time. So guys, we shall see you guys in a few days. Have a great night. Have a great day tomorrow. It's Friday, so enjoy the weekend. See you guys soon, and thank you again. I'm so grateful always. Thank you. Bye bye.